Hello and welcome to another edition of House Seats. Alongside Brian Brown, I'm E.G. Argenio, here from Wood & Ales in Manhattan, 234 West 14th Street. And Brian, Colin Kaepernick making some news, and not for his actions on the field, actually for his actions on the bench. And everyone's heard of it by now and what he's done and his personal belief not to stand for the national anthem in preseason week 3. But without diving into personal opinions, because every opinion has been explored, and I'm sure we have, we have our own individual thoughts on this, and
We've heard them all.
We've heard them all.
We're
not going to touch bases that haven't been covered, but what I'm interested in is a couple of things. One, let's start with his legacy. He's not projected to be the starter for the 49ers right now. If he isn't, and if he may get traded or he may just be their backup, whatever it may be. If he never starts another game because of his own talent, because he hasn't performed that well that warrants him playing, will this be what his legacy is composed of after his playing career is over?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. The drop-off of his game has fallen so dramatically. Talking about a guy 3-4 years ago took his team to the Super Bowl, was in the NFC Championship game for the last 3 seasons, to now being a guy that's riding the pine, or, for lack of a better term, right? He doesn't want to get off the bench.
For football action.
But I don't think that he has a great future or many days left with his playing days. So this would... obviously being the biggest component of it, this will probably be, I think, the biggest thing that he's known for as well. And I mean, we've seen this in the past.
Yeah.
Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, Chris Jackson was a talented player out of LSU and had a productive NBA career. But if you ask people what that name means to you, oh yeah, that's the guy that didn't stand for the national anthem.
Now, I will say Kaepernick was a better player than Jackson was, and had more to be thought of prior to this moment, but his play was on such a decline.
Also, what plays into that too is the popularity of both sports.
That's a good point.
The NFL is the shield. There's nothing that's.
But 20 years ago, I would say the NBA was at least closer to football than it is today, because football skyrocketed, especially in social media.
Football's a juggernaut right now.
Yes.
The NFL's a juggernaut.
Yes.
So,
which doesn't help the attention Kaepernick's getting either.
Doesn't.
Brings me to my other point. He's in a position where it's not determined that he's not the starting quarterback for the 49ers. He's still fighting for that. That's why we have the preseason. In a position where you're trying to lead, was this a good way of doing something that could also divide? Because it wasn't like it was he and a few of his teammates, or however many as you want, 50 plus guys on the field. He was the only one making that stand. For a guy who's trying to be a leader on the field as a quarterback, I mean, we're not talking about a defensive back here. We're talking about a quarterback who's trying to be in a position of leadership. It also seems like he's dividing at the same time. I mean, look what it's done to the world of social media, let alone the country.
Yeah, that's a really, really tricky question to answer because, again, being the quarterback, you are the face of the team. So you do have that responsibility. And, I mean, even something as simple where people thought Cam Newton's antics last year was dividing the Panthers' locker room.
I mean, and look at the criticism he got after the Super Bowl just for not speaking to the media about the game.
Right. So yeah, it is a very interesting position to be in when you are, essentially the face of the franchise, and especially in his position where he's also very visible. He has notoriety and he has accomplished things in his career.
Now, had this been a quarterback like Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, even RG3, do you think the dialogue would be different, or at least the criticism? Because at least, it would be players who are somewhat successful. Well, not RG3, I realize there, but let's stick to Wilson and Cam then. But you get what I'm saying. If it were guys who had their playing to back up their political stand, do you think that would, make the reaction different? But when you're a guy making so many millions of dollars a year for performing underwhelmingly, do you think that hurts the case? Because I can't see how it doesn't.
The activism, I don't think people would necessarily have an issue with.
Yes.
I just feel with the act of not standing for the national anthem, it really doesn't matter who you are. That's going to piss off people, and it's going to get that conversation started. So no matter what you've accomplished on the field, off the field, once you take that stance, it's definitely going to not reflect well and with some people.
I guess the one thing we can say, though, regardless of what you think, he had a right and he exercised that right, and I guess that's what all of us try to do on an everyday basis. Be interesting to see what he does week 1. Even though they're opening Monday night the 12th, the NFL will be honoring the 15th anniversary of September 11th. So, I think that'll be the only time the national anthem will be as highly covered, with the exception of like the Super Bowl.
Right, and trust me, that this is only the beginning. This conversation is going to be going on in bars all across America from now, probably up until that point, and obviously, however his fate plays out, whether he even remains a part of the 49ers past the preseason. And
even more so because this is an election year, but that's a conversation for a whole other show.
It's EJ opening up another can of worms right there, and there that goes.
Listen, thank you for watching House Seats. Thank you to Wood and Ales. For Brian Brown, I'm EJ Argenio.